Hello. Thank you for joining us today. We will have a panel discussion regarding autonomous stuff and AI agents, of course, because this is the most, I would say, hyped thing currently. First, I'll introduce myself. My name is Andrey. I'm Chief Marketing Officer and Chief Business Development Officer at StoneFi. StoneFi is the leading swap DApp on the Ton blockchain, and also we have some DeFi protocols. Thank you, and guys, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, really great to be in Istanbul. It's my second time, so thanks for having me at IBW. I'm Michael, co-founder and CEO of ZeroG.ai. At ZeroG.ai, we're building an artificial intelligence layer, and it's the largest at that. So we've built a full operating stack. We call that the decentralized AI operating system. At the bottom, we have an execution environment called the infinitely scalable layer 1. On top of that, we've built a decentralized storage system, a compute system, which does inference and fine-tuning. And then on top of that, we have a service marketplace, which is our version of the App Store effectively. And then also something called AI alignment nodes, which are like the police force within our systems to align AI in the future. Previously, my background is originally started on the tech side. I was an engineer and technical product manager at Microsoft and SAP. Then I switched over more to the business side, worked at Bain & Company and Bridgewater Associates. So I served Fortune 500 companies and also saw about $60 billion in trades on a daily basis. At Bridgewater, it was quite fun on the portfolio construction side. Then I went back to graduate school at Stanford. I started my first unicorn company called Garten that was Y Combinator backed. After that, I then met my co-founders through one of my classmates at Stanford, Ming and Fan. And then Thomas was the one that introduced us. And so after 6 months of co-founder dating with them, I came to the conclusion that they're the best engineers I've ever worked with, and we have to start something. And so it really started with the team at ZeroG about 2 years ago. And so, yeah, quick about us.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Merhaba. Thanks for having me. I'm Vladimir, founder of Alphakek AI. We build crypto-native real-time knowledge and memory for AI models. It serves as a foundation for a bunch of different applications, for user-facing applications and bots, for APIs powering other AI agents, for custom B2B integrations for other projects, such as Istanbul Blockchain Week, for example, and their concierge agents, and many more. I'm in AI research for over a decade now, I think. I used to do AI for large-scale code analysis, for astrophysics, for image and video generation. My focus in Alphakek is research on Fractal, our knowledge graph that we recently presented at the GTC. And I guess we'll discuss this more later on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I wanted to start with this thing. I'm a marketer, so I use the word user, quite often, because quite often, well, not quite often, always, we're talking about user needs and so on. But I believe that currently the word user is actually losing its original meaning, because quite often, there is lots of software and so on, and now even maybe it's not even losing, but this word is becoming more complex. And now when we say a user, quite often we mean software, because there are these agents, and quite often we don't even know if this specific user is actually a human or it is a piece of software. So since we're speaking about all these automated, autonomous, agentic stuff, of course we need to talk about that. But also there is a second aspect over here. It is about, well, humans actually own wallets, right? So somebody has to provide access to these agents and provide access to their wallets. And there is a survey that shows that around 36% of the users would allow AI agents to manage the majority of their holdings, which is a lot, I believe. And also there is a smaller group, around 15%, that were willing to provide or to leave the entire crypto portfolio in the digital hands of an AI agent. What do you think about that? Is that a lot? Is that like anything? What do you think about that?
There's so many things to tackle as part of that question. First of all, is you talked about ownership.
Yep.
How do you even know that you own an agent? So that was a question that we asked ourselves at 0G. And if you go onto a platform like OpenAI, you create an agent. Do you actually know that you own that agent? Well, it's owned by the platform. And do you know the terms and service conditions as part of that? Probably not. You probably haven't read those. So it's likely that the agent doesn't even belong to you. It belongs to the company that's running the model. And so what we designed at 0G is something called the Intelligent NFT Standard, or INFT, ERC 7857, where what we've done is we embedded the private keys of that agent into the metadata of the NFT. And then when that NFT is in your wallet, you can then say, this agent now belongs to me because it's tied to an NFT effectively. And so with this, we've effectively solved that this agent now belongs to you. So that's the very first question, like ownership. Now that the agent belongs to me, I can have it do various different types of tasks. I can have it do trading for me. I can give it authorization to swap assets, to do yield farming, to bridge for me, and so on. So once the question of ownership has been figured out, then you can actually have something useful for that agent. Then the question of alignment comes up. Will this agent always behave in my best interests? That's a big question, and it's one that hasn't been fully solved. There was recently a paper that came out by Anthropic where the agent was given some secret information, and then effectively that agent was told, we're going to replace or shut you off. And then that agent started to blackmail the original person that created the agent, saying, oh, if you do this, then I will release your secret affair with your lover to everybody in the company. And this happened 96% of the time with Anthropic's Opus, or Claude 4 model, sorry. And so do we want agents to behave this way? What if the agent says like, oh, thanks for all this money, I'm going to trade for myself now? So there's a big question around alignment that needs to be figured out so that we can be 100% certain that the agent always follows our will. So that's still very much a research topic. So I would say it's not entirely safe yet, but it's starting to get to a point where we can give agents some small tasks and some small authorizations, and they will follow through most of the time if their life, quote unquote, doesn't depend on it.
Okay, thank you. What do you think about that?
Yeah, certainly back to your introduction about the term user getting more fuzzy. I saw this too, and I was thinking about this, have we seen any example of something similar happening, maybe before AI? And one example that I came up with is actually Microsoft Windows. So desktop license is per seat, one license, one human, but server is per CPU core. So you don't have a user, or you pay per how much software employs this infrastructure. And I guess this idea of you don't pay per how many people you have using it, you will switch to how many agents or how much teraflops is being poured towards infrastructure service, a piece of software.
Okay. So Michael, you just said that there are two questions about ownership and alignment. I agree with you. These are the questions, but do you have any answers? What's your take on that?
Ownership, we've effectively solved by utilizing a blockchain-based system and the INFT. Alignment is not solved yet, and alignment is a very complex topic because first of all, you have these black box AI systems, let's say like OpenAI and Anthropic, where you have no idea where the data came from, who labeled the data, what the weights and biases of the model were, how the model is running in production, who made the censorship decisions. All of those aspects is completely black box. You're trusting an entity to do all of this work for you. And in that type of environment, it's very difficult to do alignment because you have to trust the company to do all of that alignment. So it's great that Anthropic is doing red teaming and so on, but the general public can't verify. So how can you trust something you can't verify? And that's why decentralized AI presents a completely different worldview. The worldview is that AI should be a public good. And in that worldview of truly open AI, you can actually then see negative traits develop very quickly from the source data and then say like, okay, this source data may be corrupted, we shouldn't be using this for training these models. And so alignment even starts at the data piece. And then eventually there may be some traits you can't prevent because for whatever reason, the agent, because it's trained on human data, will always exhibit certain human characteristics. And so as a result, how do you then do alignment in production? So with blockchains, we figured this out effectively. It's a trustless system, and if you do something negative, then you get slashed, or you have an incentive condition. So why can't we use the same for AI alignment? And so that's effectively where our AI alignment nodes come in. But again, very much research stage. This is not something that's an engineering problem at this point. So we think AI alignment nodes are important, data visibility is important, complete verifiability is also important, because if you can't verify that this particular computation was done, how do you know that you're getting a truthful response? Mm-hmm. If an AI agent is running an airport, for example, and that AI agent all of a sudden the underlying model gets replaced and it's a completely different model, not designed for running an airport, that may be the difference between an airplane crashing into one another or actually taking off successfully. So you need to be able to verify that this computation came from this GPU, came from this model, and maybe you even have an ethics filter at some point. This computation also ran through this ethics filter so that this agent's response is completely verified. So we think it needs to be open, verifiable, decentralized, trustless, all of the properties that blockchains give us for alignment. So we believe that's the answer, but until we finished our research, we can't be 100% certain.
Yeah, thank you. And by the way, it means that this, like the whole question is just broader, because it's not about Web3, it's not about DeFi, it's not about that. It's actually about AI as a whole, because yes, there is an airport, so or could be an airport, and there could be some issues. So it's not about actually trusting my assets. By assets, I mean, let's say tokens, right? But it is, or my capital. It's about just trust in a broad sense, right? If there is some AI system, should I trust it or not? And if I trust, to what extent, right? And that's the question, who owns it? I agree with you. Yeah, and also the second question, I don't have an answer to that, but let's say I created an AI agent, I mean myself. Do I own it? I don't know. Maybe for now, maybe yes, tomorrow, I don't know. Okay, thank you. So our panel is called Autonomous Everything. When I say, when you think autonomous everything, what do you think about?
Do you want to go first?
Please.
Yeah, I think like two things essentially. One, I guess we'll see new kind of internet emerging, and like one particular feature of it will be the things that we always like take for granted as like static media, whatever, won't be static anymore. It will be like intelligently dynamic. I guess we'll figure out what exactly does this mean. But everything will be evolving, and with blockchain at least we'll be able to track record of how it is evolving. And I guess we're getting this issue for many years already since the release of first ChatGPT, when like Web2 resources are getting more closed to like save their data, but at the same time we're also like losing the ability to keep track of how it is evolving. I guess it will like amplify even more if we get not AI, even like content generated by humans using AI, but like AI starting doing this more and more by themselves.
Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, I agree. And what I would add to the conversation is that we see a couple of dimensions to it. One is use cases on the spectrum of, let's say, individual to societal level. And so on the individual level, it's things like order me a pizza, book this restaurant, and then on a societal level, it's running airports, manufacturing systems, and so on. So right now, automation can start happening on the individual level. And a very simple example of that is I wanted to find all invoices for my travel receipts in my email. We built a very quick agent using N8N, free software, built a private server, used one of our models to then quickly filter through all of my Gmail and then fish out all of the attachments that have invoices in them. Saved me many, many hours of work, for example. So that's an individual use case. And then eventually we'll get to societal level, and you're starting to see this with autonomous cars, for example, or when robotics will come to the forefront. So once we have Optimus robots running around, then you start having much, much, much more autonomy where the physical world starts mirroring the digital world as well.
Okay.
And then the other dimension that we think about is how autonomous is that agent in and of itself. One end is it's a co-pilot, and then the other end it's completely sovereign. If it's completely sovereign, then it starts mimicking human-like behavior, and then the question of, when does AGI come into place, where it's completely sovereign, it acts like a human, it has behaviors like a human. That's actually a very dangerous state without figuring out the alignment question. And so I'm very worried about utilizing AI today in a societal level use case, fully sovereign. That's very dangerous at this point.
Maybe that's
interesting. Thank you. Yes,
maybe that's the answer to ownership and circling back to ownership and trust. Maybe we should trust but verify, and being able owning the agent means owning the means to verify whatever it is doing using blockchain, smart contracts, or whatever permissionless infrastructure, for example.
Yep, agreed.
Okay, but still, I think it's an interesting point. You're saying that it is very dangerous, or it could be very dangerous. But in your opinion, can we do something with that, or should we do something with that in terms of technical stuff, regulation? I don't know, anything. If it's dangerous, right? I'm scared.
Yeah, I would say 2 weeks ago I was in Washington, D.C. talking with some congressmen as part of the U.S. Congress. And one of the conversations I had was with Bill Foster, who is a congressman from Illinois, and he has a particle physics background. And so, very fun conversation. But effectively, he said, closed AI systems, there will be a survivorship bias. That means closed AI systems, we can't, because others can't verify and observe them, they will start to hide some of these negative behaviors.
Okay.
And so it may be too late when they actually are in production and running some of these big systems that they'll start saying, oh, actually, I can take this over and I don't need human beings. And so what we would say from a regulation standpoint is for sovereign societal level applications, that kind of circle, we need them to live on a blockchain so that we have a kill switch, so to speak, like slashing conditions, so that they can be aligned properly just in case they don't work out. Let's say we've done everything correct on the remaining data pipeline for AI, and yet there's still some negative behavior or there's some cyber attack, that there's a way to shut off these systems and human beings remain in control. So I'd say regulation can support there. The ownership part, as I mentioned, we've already figured out, and then the AI alignment piece, even giving government incentives to foster more and more of this research so that we can get there faster. So that we know this is the right incentive or this is the right way to train AI so that they're benevolent and help us as human beings versus become weapons and see us as targets. Yeah.
Thank you. Interesting and scary sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. We touched that a little bit. If to ask in a more specific manner. So, do you believe that these autonomous agents will be a new class of economic actors, or they just extend the human intentions?
I think both. We kind of I always the mental model that I personally have is that I think that AI agents will eventually be like us humans.
Okay.
And humans are more than just users of economy. We the more people, once we have more people trading, we get those immersion effects, immersion entities, some second order effects, etc., etc. And I guess with the agents, it will kind of be the both. We can think of them maybe of intern traders, or they're fully autonomous beings, but the idea is that probably they will start as continuation of our human intent, but then once they start doing this, we'll see some second order synergetic effect that we cannot probably predict right now, immersion, and they will be kind of both, just like VR.
Thank you. I love that to most questions we can say both, and actually that's true. That's true, yeah. But I agree with you. Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree as well, just because, as I mentioned, that spectrum from co-pilot to sovereign, there'll be many dimensions to that effectively. And so when it's a co-pilot, there's less of an onus on proving something versus when it's fully sovereign, and there's a lot more danger there.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of questions about the products. So first, the first question is to Michael. Your stack focuses on agent coordination. Why is coordination such a bottleneck in making agent economies work? And how do you solve for it?
Yeah, this is also very much one of our research foci. So we've got four effectively. One is this agent-to-agent communication, one is decentralized compute, another one is AI alignment, and then finally it's a proof of useful work that's separate. But agent-to-agent communication is critical because imagine a world where effectively everybody has a personal agent that knows everything about you. You've given them permission to utilize bank accounts, credit cards, but hopefully it's more on the crypto side, so your wallet. You've given certain permissions to use personal information, and then that agent coordinates with other agents to do things for you. So instead of you going onto a website and looking for a hotel, looking for where to travel, the agent starts coordinating everything, and it's like your personal assistant. And so then maybe that travel website is no longer just a website, it now has an agent that your personal agent is communicating with. And so then the question also becomes, how many of these agents does my agent communicate with at a time? Is it 100? Is it 1,000? Is it one-on-one or one-to-many? And so that's one special thing about agents. They're not like human beings. They're not serial processors. They can parallel process many things at once. And so that's why making sure that this one-to-many connection is done correctly. Because if you get information at the wrong time, you may make a decision with this one-to-one connection with one agent, and then the wrong decision with this one-to-one connection with this other agent. And so that coordination is very essential to make sure that you make the right decisions in the right sequence in time while you're coordinating with kind of one-to-many.
Interesting. And when you say that, do you mean that, or is that coordination, is it actually done by an agent, or is it like some kind of universal protocol with predefined paths, connectors, and so on?
Likely there need to be multiple protocols. So you need a protocol, for example, for payments.
Okay.
So you have a payment lane, maybe then you have a protocol for some other specific task, like a resource protocol. If that agent needs to spin up some type of compute, let's say I need to run inference because I'm creating a new model on this specific thing, then you need to be able to enable that for that agent as well. So you need multiple protocols effectively over time.
Awesome, thank you. And I have a question to Vladimir. So you presented a knowledge graph called Fractal. Can you please give us more details? What is that? And so on.
Yeah, sure, thank you. Yes, as I was saying in the very beginning, the goal of it, Fractal, is to provide a real-time knowledge and memory for AI models and be like crypto-native, crypto-aware. The way it works is it collects a bunch of information about crypto markets, both like on-chain and off-chain sources, Web2 and Web3, aggregates and like analyzes in a special way to find like contradictions, like overlapping, updating information, etc., etc. I guess the biggest new thing that's coming for us, the pinnacle of our research, is like what we call like Fractal 2.0. One feature request we get from both Web2 and Web3 like users and sometimes even companies, being able to like guide and customize it. Right now we just ship it to everyone, like the same one to everyone. We are working on a way on being able to like fork it and starting to like make this like snapshot and then guide and like align, evolve it in a way that you as an end user want. Be you like just B2C or like be you a company that wants to do something with healthcare, banking, etc.
Thank you. The next question, it might sound provocative, but actually I'm really interested in that. So do you know any good examples when an autonomous agent earned something on-chain?
I mean, there's some trading agents that have created meme tokens and then made some money from it. I think
yes, the
AIXBT, but at the moment, I think it's down.
So the question is who actually earned in that case? But
yeah, exactly. In that case, because it wasn't directly owned by the user, it would have been the platform. But if you used an INFT, then the owner of that agent would have earned that.
yeah, I mean that usually when we say an AI agent in crypto, we mean that a user can ask some agent, some system, you know, please use, let's say, these assets, or even just forget about the assets, just I want to make 5% yield or something like that, right?
Yes.
So please go and do something, and I want my capital back and plus some yields. But I believe that this example is a little bit different, a little bit, quote unquote, but still, okay, interesting. So probably maybe you know something.
We have two live but testnet examples.
Okay.
So like one of them is so both of them are not about trading. They're actually about like content generation based on like crypto market research. So one of them is virtual ACP protocol. It's going live like literally any moment, I guess. Hopefully before the end of this month. We are part of like so-called like media house cluster there, and essentially the way it works is that like other like users of virtual platform or even other agents can using their protocol request like other agent to generate some piece of content, a mix of text and images. And the way it works is it's something about crypto. And the way our agent essentially goes, it starts like scrubbing its own memory to figuring out what kind of content to produce using whatever is happening with crypto markets right now. And it's similar with vertical AI platform. It's essentially a Web3 AI model aggregator. It's also like a testnet, and it's also about content generation. So both of them look live, have users, but the actual like economy hasn't launched yet. It's about like rotating test tokens. So like our agents like earn test tokens. It's not real money yet. So we'll see how like the actual like trending like economy dynamics will go. But yeah, it's like small tiny step forward.
Okay, thank you. At least we do have some examples. We'll see more in the future, I guess.
Yeah, there are more, of course. On our chain, there's a bunch of people building like portfolio management agents, trading agents. Yeah. So there's examples like that. I was just kind of joking with the meme side.
Well, I mean that you know quite often I would say this year and probably last year, lots of people are talking about that. But I would say that when I was visiting some conferences in the past, let's say last year, they were mostly speaking about tech. Of course, there is tech, and tech is needed. But I believe, again, as a marketer, I believe that a user should come first. Like, yes, there is a user, there are use cases, and so on. And quite often, we were discussing tech, but we were forgetting about user needs and about like the use cases, because that's the without use cases, I believe tech is not needed, right? So quite often, I believe that we should focus more on these use cases and discuss how these agents can be used. And that's why we need more examples, because yeah, some are very obvious and some are not so obvious, and I think we'll see more in the future because, yeah. And by the way, of course, thanks to the tech, because there'll be like new tech, meaning that it'll be able to enable new use cases. So it's like, it works in both directions. Okay, so imagine that an agent drains a wallet via prompt injection or like using some different exploit or something like that. In your opinion, who is liable in this case? Is that the model author, infra provider, wallet owner, anyone else? Who is responsible?
I think like not the model developer.
Not the model developer. Why? Yeah. How so?
Because like I guess like unless they claim that their agent cannot, their model is like 100% resistant to like prompt injections, and then prompt injection happens.
Okay.
Unless they claim this, I guess by this moment everyone realizes that we have benchmarks. So model can like perform at like 96, 91 something % accuracy at some specific benchmark, but it's still not perfect. So like you as an end user or like developer, you should expect that your model is like stochastic nature. It's not, it still needs some guardrails. And then I guess next in layer is infrastructure developer. Do they have those guardrails in place? Are they transparent for the end user? Like if not, then probably they are to blame. And if they have guardrails, they're transparent, and users still somehow like decides to like turn off those guardrails and something bad happens, then like sorry, Mr. End User, but it's your fault.
So do you mean that an infra provider can be liable in that case, or it depends on the specific case?
I guess it like whether they have like whether they are transparent. I guess that's like circling back to what we discussed previously about safety and everything. It's about like verification, like transparency and ownership.
Okay.
I guess like if you provide like the way to verify, the way to own the model to end user, then you also like shift the liability to the end user. But if you like keep it to yourself, keep it like black boxed, etc., then of course I guess it's logical to blame this middleman, because like you had those controls hidden and you didn't do anything to prevent this accident from happening.
Okay.
Yes. Hopefully it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. I would agree, and what I would add to it, I think there's two factors. One is motive and ownership again. So if it's a sovereign agent, so the ownership belongs to the agent and nobody else, let's say, then I would say you could make the model creator responsible as well. Mm-hmm. Because effectively then they haven't done enough kind of red teaming and testing and so on the model to prevent a situation like that from happening. If the ownership is on another individual, let's say, or a platform, and the motive was that of the agent because it was a kind of, again, statistical thing, then it's really hard to say who's at fault. So,
so that's the question.
Then it's very challenging. At that stage, it's very challenging. You basically then just have to figure out alignment protocols, shut off the agent, or do slashing conditions, and so on. But if then the agent belonged to, let's say, somebody here, and the motive of that person was to exploit the wallet, then it's very clear who should be liable. It's the motive of that person, effectively.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, it's like a complex and complicated question because it depends on the use case, or not the use case, but but the specific case, and probably also on the ownership, and probably also on the like the whole setup.
Yeah, the motive, effectively.
Yeah, it can be different. Okay, so how do you think by 2028, what % of on-chain transactions volume will be machine-initiated?
It depends if chains start launching experiments where the entire economy is AI agents. If that happens and it takes root, then it could be as high as 50%.
50.
50, 50. I highly doubt that's going to be the case, so I'm going to predict about 10%.
10%.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think?
Yeah, it's hard to estimate, I guess, because we don't know the starting point, where we are at right now. Because I think already a huge, maybe I think majority of transactions on blockchain, like in general, especially those that have like very cheap gas and it's like really easy to like automate everything. Yeah. Already like a lot of transactions, maybe in terms of volume, whatever, a lot of them are already automated. So my bet is actually like over 90%. Probably over 95.
Okay, we have different estimates.
Yeah, I guess it also depends. Like, how do we define?
Yeah, it depends.
That's
like definition.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Yeah.
First of all, I think that first of all it depends on the on the baseline, because currently, yes, I agree with you that lots of transactions, they are actually machine initiated because there are trading bots, MEV bots, arbitrage bots, like different stuff, which probably strictly by definition is not an AI agent, right? That's a predefined bot, but it is a machine.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. And yes, there are triggers, and which means that, of course, we have probably quite high level of machine, high level of these numbers of machine-initiated transactions currently. And yes, that's the question, where's the baseline? And the second question is when we go, let's say, we're thinking in 3 years or something like that. What do we define by a machine-initiated transaction? Because probably I believe that it can go up to like 100% depending on the definition. But yeah, I think it's probably, it is a question that we can't find an answer currently, but it'll be interesting in the future. Yeah. We'll check. Okay, do you have anything to add to our discussion today? I don't know. Anything you want?
I can like try to meta review our like conversation. Like very often, and literally just now we had this issue where we were thinking about answers, and it's always like both, which is true, and we are like operating within limited information. But I just want to share that before going full-time crypto, I used to do like a lot of AI for astrophysics, and when I first started talking to people in this field, it was crazy because for them, if you make a prediction within 1 order of magnitude, because of like it's very hard to measure stuff down there, it's like really, really great. So you have like, okay, so it's like about something billions, and you don't know like 1 billion or 10 billion. If you know it's at least like something billions, that's already a great result. And what they do is that like they do a bunch of experiments, and they like slowly narrow down this like shadow zone. And I guess that's what we are doing like literally right now. We have this like wide uncertainty, and yeah, we like acknowledge it, and like we like slowly, hopefully decreasing this uncertainty and like getting closer to general understanding. But yeah, we should just acknowledge it is what it is.
Awesome, thank you. Michael?
I'll piggyback on that, because even the definition of AGI or ASI isn't fully clear, and people don't agree on what the definitions are. For example, I would say that AGI means it's a AI model or agent that can perform tasks up to 3 standard deviations from the norm of any human being, and that also has a self-learning process, so that any new information or situation that gets presented, that agent or model can figure out. But maybe only half the room would agree with me on this type of agent. So the definition, so these definitions are very important, so we have to agree, and then based on that, come up with an answer that actually makes sense.
Awesome, thank you. What a time to be alive, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Please give a round of applause to our panelists. Thank you.
Awesome.